On this page, I want us to talk about simplifying radicals. So it's a really kind of important deal with this today. In this class, I typically will not want decimal answers. I'm going to want your answers in simplified radical form. And I know this is something they talked about in Algebra 1, but for the majority of you guys, it's one of those things that's easily forgotten. So we're going to revisit this. Suppose I want to take the square root of 50. And I know that the square root of 50 has a decimal approximation. That's not what I want. I want this in simplified radical form, which means we need to find a way to break down 50 and make it smaller. The way we do this is we're going to apply this concept of this property of square roots. And that is that if I have the square root of a product, so if I had the square root of two numbers being multiplied, I can split the square root. The square root of A times the square root of B. And the same concept is true if I had division. So if I want to take the square root of a fraction, you take the square root of the top and the square root of the bottom. And the key part here is that these are two-way streets. I can go in one way or the other. I can take it apart, I can put it back together. The way we do this, we do what these called perfect squares. Why do we call that a perfect square? All sides are equal, right? Okay. So that means that 3 and 3. So what's the area of my square? 9. 9 is your perfect square. It's the square of a whole number. So we have 2 squared, which is 4. So what I want you guys to do right now is I want you very quickly in your notes, you are going to make a list from 2 down to 15. And then I also want you to add in 20 and 25. And then I want you to very quickly find their perfect squares. Use your calculator if you must. Key to this. Now you've got your table of perfect squares in your notes. You're going to be referring to that list on a regular basis, I guarantee it, until you get this stuff really put into deep memory. The key is to look at 50. And here's the question you're going to ask yourself every single time. Which of my perfect squares divides evenly into 50? Choose not a perfect square. Lead with the perfect square. 25. Okay, 25 times what, Sam? 2. Okay, so we've got my square root of 50 becomes 25 times 2. So now what I've done is I've taken my single number and I turned it into something that looks like this. And we said we take the square root of a product, what can I do with the square roots? I'm going to separate them. And this is why, and again, you might want to put a special note of this in your notes. Lead with the perfect square. You want to make sure you lead with the perfect square, and this is why. Because now I'm looking at 25, and I'm going to split that into 25 times radical 2. So the square root of 25 has the square root of 2. Now what's the square root of 25? 5 radical 2 is the answer. So that's how we split it. So you always want to lead with the perfect square. And that way that kind of pops out. We now made our radical smaller. We now have our whole number out front. All right, any questions on that? All right, the last segment of the notes before we start getting interrupted with our wonderful announcements that take